Work Together 8-1 is turned on for you, and we're going to be taking a look at journalizing and posting our adjusting entries. So basically what excuse me. What happened is we went through and used our worksheet, and on our worksheets we went through and accounted for the fact that we used up some supplies and we used up some insurance. But we have not actually done anything to put that in our journal. So our actual account supplies or prepaid insurance has not been affected. So we already calculated it and we already know how that's going to impact our net income, but we just need to take the step to go through and actually journalize it. So our directions read, a partial worksheet of Darlene's delivery service for the month ended July 31st of the current year is given below. Also given are the journal and general ledger accounts. The general ledger accounts do not show the details for the fiscal period, and the balances shown in each account is the account balances before adjusting entries are posted. Your instruction will guide you through the following examples. Number 1, use page 4 of the journal and journalize and post the adjusting entries. So what we're going to do is we look here in our worksheet, and do you remember how I pointed out that in Applia they have their adjusting entries, they have an A and then they have a B? So A just means this is the debit of the first adjusting entry, and here's the credit, and then the debit and the credit of our second adjusting entry. We're going to list our adjusting entries in our journal in the order of A and then B. So the first one that we would go through and adjust would be our supplies, and then our second one would be our prepaid insurance. Now, anytime we've journalized in the past, we always had to have a source document, like R1, C12, M15, S3. For our adjusting entries, we don't have any source documents. So there will not be that column that's going to be used, but we don't want to go through and just put information on there without having some facts tied to it. So what you are going to find on the very first line of the journal, there is not a spot to fill in the date, so they kind of give you a little bit of clue here. What you're going to do is you're going to type right here, and it's going to be centered. We're going to actually put in the word adjusting entries. So that's a heading that's going to go above it to say, hey, what we're doing below, we don't have any source documents. We're just doing this because I have to account for things that I've used up throughout my fiscal period. Now, your closing entries are always going to be recorded on the last day of the fiscal period. They didn't give us the last day, so how am I going to know that? Carly gets a dum-dum for that. She didn't speak out loud, but she pointed at something. What'd you point at, Carly? At the worksheet. Look at the date on the worksheet. What does it say? Okay, so that's going to be the date that we're going to journalize it. So we're going to see that we have for month ended July 31st. So our month is going to be July, and the date is going to be the 31st. Again, always just looking at our worksheet, we're going to get our date from there. So now what I have to do is I look at my worksheet and I say, okay, what account is being debited for A? Supplies expense. For how much? $713. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in here supplies expense, $713. Then I will look back here and I'm going to say, all right, what is my credit for letter A? And my credit is going to be supplies for $713. So then my second line for this entry is going to be supplies for $713. So I am truly looking at the adjustment column on my worksheet and just getting it in my journal. So the next thing I have to do after I journalize my letter A adjusting entries is I have to journalize my letter B. The date is still the 31st. Each letter for our adjusting entry would have to have a date. So I'm going to put the 31st on there. And then I have to look to see what is being debited for letter B, and that is going to be insurance expense. And it is being debited $300. What's being credited is going to be prepaid insurance for $300. So we just journalized. What do we do after we journalize? Crickets. I didn't know we knew how to do that. Anyone? What do we do after we journalize? Good Lord, you guys need to talk more. I was thinking about buying you donuts for Friday, but you know, I don't know if we can get anyone to like open their mouth to talk to me. Carly, you take notes? Sure. So we have to go through and post. What does posting mean? We take our information from our journal and put it in our ledger. And we're going to post from top down. So I'm going to look at line 2 here, because line 2 is the first line that actually physically has a number. And my first line 2 here says supplies expense. So down here in my general ledger, I'm going to find my account for supplies expense. There is nothing already recorded in supplies expense, so I'm going to put the month of July, date of the 31st. What's my post reference? Why 4, Carly? We're on page 4 of our journal. So when we look up at the upper right-hand corner of my journal, it says 4. So that tells me that I am getting this from page 4 of the journal. And then this is going to be debited for $713. Previously had a zero balance, so its new balance is a debit of $713. My last step is always to take my account number 540 and put it back up on my journal. The process of how you post is as important as getting it done. So making sure that you follow it in those steps. So I just did line 2 of my journal. Now I'm going to move to line 3. Line 3, the account title says supplies, so I'm going to find my supplies ledger. My supplies ledger already has a balance in there, so I have to go on the second line here, put the date of the 31st. My post reference is still 4 because I'm posting from page 4 of my journal. Supplies is being credited for $713, so I have to go to the credit column and I'm going to credit for $713. It had a debit balance of $976. And I'm crediting it for $713, so I have to do math. So I have to take $963 and subtract $713. So that would give me my new balance of supplies of $250, and that would be $250 as a debit. Okay, so posting is nothing new. I'm just going through and reviewing with you the exact steps on how we post. The last step that I do is I take my account number 140, and that goes back up on my journal to say I just posted line 3 of my journal. I'm going to do the same thing for insurance expense. Insurance expense, I have to put the date of July 31st. Post reference is going to be 4. And when I look at line 4 of my journal, I can see that insurance expense is being debited for $300. It previously had a zero balance, so I'm going to put a debit in $300 and then another debit in my balance column for $300 because 0 plus $300 is $300. Last step is to put account number 520 back up top. I'm going to post to prepaid insurance next. Prepaid insurance is an asset account, account number 150. Remember, all assets accounts have an account number that starts with the number 1. Liabilities have an account number that starts with the number 2. The date's the 31st. Post reference is going to be 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to credit prepaid insurance $300. It previously had a $1,200 balance. So I can't just put $300 in my balance column. I have to do the math. So I'm going to do 1,200, subtract 300, and that should give me 900 as my new balance for prepaid insurance. Last step is to go through and put 150 in for my post reference. Account number 150 posted for prepaid insurance. Now, when we start looking at our posting accounts, when we click on check answers, it's always a little bit harder to see how well we did. Just because you have to open up each one, but I think we went through and did well on that one. Go ahead and try the on your own, please.